Welcome, new supporters, Rev, Jamie Black, and Mad Jack. Thank you for your support. It is much appreciated. Hello, travelers. Boardman21 here, and today I've got another Necromancer build for you. Now, this one's going to be based off of our old build, the 200 Wraith build, where we had a bunch of Ignite going off, and you had a whole bunch of ward. You'd hit them with Rip Blood, get more ward. You were constantly casting Wraiths. It is a slower build. But now we wanted to throw in the volatile zombies into it, and what better way than to just have the zombies proc themselves every time that a wraith dies. Now it is only a 30% chance to proc at max, but with how many wraiths we have and how fast they die, they're going to be going off all of the time. And then what better way to not only have them do damage, but every time they explode, to give us a bunch of ward. So we built into giving them as much maximum health as possible, which will increase how long your raids last. This was already something we were building into, but now every time that a summon volatile zombie is procced, which you don't even have to manually cast, it will take some of your mana, but mana is not an issue in this. When the summon volatile zombie explodes, it will grant you 2,000 ward. Now this is completely dependent on how much minion life you give it, but at level 100 with about 50 points of int and about 700% increased minion health, which is extremely easy to do, you'll get about 2,000 ward every time one explodes. If you get yourself in a pickle and your life is starting to drop or you notice your ward getting low, you can manually summon some of them, and as you manually summon them and summon 6, 7, 8 of them, you will just spam up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10,000 ward in repetition really fast, and it can save you from dying. Now, I do throw on a disclaimer. This build is not a speed running build. It is a much slower paced build. It is going to be really slow and tedious in echoes. However, for bosses, for high health mobs, for arena where you stay in one spot, it works extremely well, and those are the areas that it excels. Again, echoes, not so fast. It will be slow, not super painfully slow, but it will be one of the slower builds in last Epoch. Alright, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how all this works. For skills, I'm running Summon Bone Golem, Summon Volatile Zombie, Dread Shade, Summon Wraith, and Drain Life. For Summon Bone Golem, you can change this out. You don't have to run the Bone Golem. I'm running him for the taunt. You could run Bone Curse with Bone Prism every 20 seconds and have that as an OP way of when you need an oh shit button because things are attacking you, throw out the Bone Prism. It has extremely strong taunt effect. You can also throw in Rip Blood, so if you do find yourself in a situation where you've run out of mana, you can use a free casting Rip Blood, which can generate 9 mana per cast on it and be free to cast. You can also use Rip Blood to generate even more ward in those situations, so Rip Blood can be a lifesaver. But I went with Taunt. As long as you're careful with this build, you won't go into negative mana. You just have to make sure you've got minions and Drain Life to make sure you're getting as much mana back as possible. So for the Bone Golem, the main points that I went for was Amalgam of Sentinels, 4 points in Tower of Bones for that threat generated and size, 5 points in Amalgam of Primalist that gives nearby minions additional armor, 4 points in Unnatural Speed, so everything will move faster, and 2 points in Amalgam of Rogues, so he's got some melee attack speed and move speed. Both of those I don't really care about too much, but we had to put the points somewhere. For Summon Volatile Zombie, we've got this set up so when you proc, let's just go to the node here. So down here, Awakening Presence. When a minion dies, you have a chance to cast Volatile Zombie at its location, expending its mana cost. So it does cost mana, but like I said, with the Drain Life hitting its maximum 13 targets, you're getting 130 mana per second generated. As long as you make sure you have minions and a Drain Life, and you have at least one Drain Life active, mana is not an issue in this build. So with every Wrath that dies, or Wraith if you will, you will have a 30% chance to proc a volatile zombie. It will only proc one. If you take multiple zombies in here, it still will only proc one. So, since we're only going to be proccing one anyways, we also put a point in Giant Zombie. This does make it cost more mana, but that's the only thing we don't care about because mana is super easy to come by with Drain Life hitting your minions. So since mana is not a problem, we went with this, which gives it more damage, 300% multiplicative more health, and more area. Now, the reason the health is such a big factor of this is because all of that health means you're going to get more ward. So then we have 3 points in Necromantic Fervor, which means that when a zombie explodes, you get 3% of its maximum health healed to you. With 1 point in Vital Ward, that health is instead Ward. We want Ward because we're running a low life build. We don't want health. So now we get 3% of their maximum health as Ward. So since we're getting 2,000 Ward, that means we've given them 60,000 maximum health. Now this is supposed to scale with healing effectiveness. However, I believe that's only for the healing because I tested it with the ward, and healing effectiveness does not increase the amount of ward that you got. It would have been cool because with 400% healing effectiveness, we would have got 10,000 ward for every zombie that exploded. And that would have got nerfed really quick, we know. But it doesn't work like that. I don't know if that's a bug and it's supposed to work, or if it just doesn't work, and either way, if it did, it would get removed anyways because of how OP it is. We also have 2 points in Path of Destruction for increased explosion area, 5 points in Forceful Commander so that it has 50% mana efficiency. Even with that 50% mana efficiency, we're looking at a 43 mana cost. I know, sounds scary. Believe me, it'll be okay. And then we've got 1 point in Grave Attunement, which gives them more damage, more health decay, and reduced move speed. Honestly, they're not going to be our main source of damage. We don't care how slow they move, and we don't care how quick they die. The faster they die, the sooner we get our ward, so it's a win-win. And that was just to unlock the giant zombie. We then have 2 points in Fervor for more damage, more move speed, and 2 points in Leap Attack. Since they do have reduced move speed, well, you can bypass that by just letting them leap to their target and exploding on impact, which is always really cool to watch. You won't see it with how many wraiths you have because they'll be hidden, but it's still cool because you can see the explosion. With the new lighting in the game, it really lights up the screen, and it's very impactful. For Dreadshade, you don't have to use Dreadshade. You can switch it out with Ripblood if you wanted, if you want to keep the Golem. The reason I use Dreadshade is it does give you a lot of armor, which increases your survivability even more. It also gives you 45% more cast speed, and Dreadshade, normally people have a problem with it because it kills off your minions. Well, we're in the game of decaying wraiths where they're dying anyways, we don't care, we might as well just speed it up a little for a boost in our effect to summon more of them. The more of them you have, the more damage you do, the more mana you get, the more of them you can summon. You see the cycle that's happening here. So with this, we got 2 points in Spectral Presence, 3 points in Dying Coven. Sounds like COVID, I've been told about that a few times. 4 points in Grim Fate, 1 point in Symbiotic Apparition, 3 points in Flesh Harvest, 1 point in Dread Plague, 1 point in Martyrdom, 3 points in Lingering Doom, 1 point in Pernicious Pact, and 1 point in Egoism. Then we have Summon Wraiths, which is going to be your main DPS skill, even though it's them doing the damage, but this is the one you'll be focused on casting it the most. Now we have it set up to try and give them as much life as possible with as much reduced health decay as possible so they last as long as possible. This allows you to have more of them. The more of them you have, the more ignites that are going off every second as they hit. We do have 2 idols, which converts them to Flame Rays. You want to convert them to either Flame Rays or your Putrid Rays. If you keep them just as the normal rays, the problem with them is the fact that they decay twice as fast as the putrid and the flame. So make sure that you get the conversion idols. Otherwise, you'll only have about half as many of them as you see in this video. We got 1 point in Locus of Resurrection, 5 points in Haunting, 1 point in Spirit Blood, 2 points in Grave Reality, 4 points in Delay the End, 1 point in Spirit Link, 4 points in Wrath Bringer, and 2 points in Dawn of the Fall. If you wear the new Raven's Rise gloves, I believe they're called, they give +2 to all spell minions. You can put 2 more points anywhere in this tree. You can also put 2 more in the zombies. I do have the gloves. I didn't put them on. Apparently they're much more rare to get than how easily I got them from gambling. I got them in like 20 tries, but others have been saying that they've spent millions and not get them. So I didn't want to put them in this until maybe they're a more common item among people. You know, in multiplayer trading, I'd be all about it because, well, people could just get them from the marketplace if they wanted, or the bazaar, if you will. But in this one, this is just where the 20 points would go. Again, same thing, if you have plus levels to these skills on an item, you can also put the points wherever you want. For Drain Life is the key component to this build working, because without it, it would suffer so many mana issues it wouldn't work at all. So you need to have it to where it targets minions, it gives you mana on the minions, it only targets minions, and then you want it to be non-channeled, so it's just a cast and forget, and it can have a certain number of targets. You also want it to be somewhat cheap, so it's not so hard on you, because it's very expensive. So we got 4 points in Empowered Drain, 1 point in Pustulant End, 1 point in Malignant Discharge, 1 point in Grim Harvest. This makes it so it can target minions, and you get 10 mana gained per second. Now, you don't have to take this last one in Necrotic Feast, where it only targets minions, but I recommend it. And the reason why, if you're trying to target minions, and it can only target so many targets, so if you end up hitting some enemies in there, it means you're going to get less mana back. So since you can only have, I think it's 13 targets total with it, if half of them or enemies and the other half of your minions, you're going to suffer on the mana gain from it. Like I said, you can work around that by summoning more than one of them at once and making sure you only hit your minions, but for me, just make it target the minions and be done. We have 3 points in Thought Steal. This reduces the channel cost by 30%, or the total cost of it by 30% if you don't have it channeling. For this, that reduced it down to 87. If you don't put those points there, it's going to be well over 100 mana per cost, which is really expensive. Don't worry, you get it all back really quick. Then we got 2 points in Ravenous, 2 points in Insatiable, 1 point in Dark Shackles, 2 points in Enduring Night, and 1 point in Grasp of the Damned. For passives, I'm running 5 points in Bone Aura, 5 points in Dark Rituals, 2 points in Ethereal Revenant, and 8 points in Stolen Vitality. We got 19 points in the Lich, with 10 points in Apocrypha, 5 points in Survival of the Cruel, 3 points in Wrathbringer, and 1 point in Hollow Lich. Make sure you take this, you don't want to leech. And then 73 points in the Necromancer, our mastered class, with 8 points in Risen Army, 2 points in Blood Armor, 5 points in Reclamation of Souls, 8 points in Wisp Weaver, 3 points in Putrid Retribution, 8 points in Tyrant, 10 points in Moonlight Prior, 5 points in Frantic Summons, 5 points in River of Bones, 10 points in Rite of Undeath, which is a huge boost of damage to your minions, and 9 points in Heresy. For items and idols, so for your weapon, you want something that does not have adaptive spell damage. Make sure it does not have adaptive spell damage. And then for uniques, we are wearing Enzanguius and Last Steps of the Living, as we are running a low life build. You do not have to run this build as a low life build. If you go full life because you don't have these new uniques, make sure you turn the leech back on in the Hollow Lich node. Get rid of the point in that so that your drain life will leech life to keep you up. You won't generate ward from having low life with these two items, but what you will do is still gain ward whenever you use a minion skill when the zombies explode, so you'll still get lots of ward, but when you do drop to 0 ward and some of your life is taken, you will be able to drain it back with drain life. So it is a viable way to play it as well. And then the third unique is going to be Orion's Eye for that mana. This also makes it to where 100% of void damage is taken as fire, so you don't have to get any void resistance on this build. And then when it's all converted to fire, you actually take 13% less fire damage, which is a good thing. And then of course you'll have increased duration of stun immunity after you've been stunned. So that sucks because that means you got stunned in order to get it, which is always bad, but either way, it's just an extra stat that can help you if you do get stunned. For idols, you want to make sure that you have at least 2 idols, maybe 3. Try to get as close to 100% chance to summon Flame Wraith instead of a regular Wraith, as the Flame and the Putrid ones decay at about half the rate as the regular ones. So if you don't have these idols, you can still do this build, but you only have about half as many of the rays total. Now you can throw in 3 of these or 4 of these to make sure you get to 100%. I did too. I got to about 94% with these guys, which isn't quite 100%, but it was close enough that I didn't want to throw a third idol in. I wanted these increased life ones so that we would be able to get a lot more life and a lot more ward generation. For the 1x1s, I just went with some resistances and flat armor. And then for the other items in the build, I'm going to hover over them. Eventually, the build planner will be back up, and I will be able to put the build planner in there so you can go over these items and all that. The stats that you want for this build: minion health regen, and int. That's really it. After that, stack, the resistances that you need. Even those you don't have to have technically. You want as much life as possible as well. And that's pretty much it for the items. And then let's jump to the character sheet. And then for the character sheet, so I have a blessing that's giving me void resistance. We don't want that. You don't need any void resistance. The Orion's Eye is converting all void damage into fire, and then you also take 13% less. So any void damage you take is automatically converted to the fire element. You'll have capped resistance against it and take 13% less, plus have all the extra mana. That's why Orion's Eye is really nice. So we're capped on our elemental, we're also capped on poison, we're not capped on physical. Like I said, you can get better rolls. I think we only got a tier 2 on one of our rings, so it's a little low. Still looking to make that a little bit better. We have 15% armor. This will go up when we're inside of Dreadshade. We'll get more armor based on how much int we have, and we have 57 points. And then for damages, we don't care about our damages at all. All we care about is the cast speed. We've got 50 to 60% cast speed on this build. And then for minions, we have just over 1,000% minion health, so that's about where you want to aim. You can get 2,000 if you have some tier 7s that you found that have minion health on them. We have no increased minion health regen because that doesn't exist anymore. And then for damages, you can see it's really not that high. We got about 200% lightning damage for them, cold and fire. That comes out of our passives. We only have about 80% global minion damage for them, maybe. So really not that much damage, but you'll have so many of them that they're still going to do a lot of damage. Alright, and then for the build itself. Now, like I said, this takes a little bit to build up, but once you've built it, you just want to keep moving with it. And I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly how long it takes, how much damage you do, the ward. I'm going to show you how you can get a lot of ward. Again, if you run into a pickle, you just manually cast some zombies themselves. So first, I'm going to put Dreadshade on autocast. I'm going to get myself my Golem out, and then all you do at this point, you just cast Wraiths, and you make sure that you have Drain Life, at least one active, try and maybe have 2, but we're just going to go ahead and start casting him, get our Drain Life out there. You'll see our mana is coming back up already, and that's all you do, just start casting. Now our Flame Rays do leech quite a bit, so having them start attacking will increase their survivability, as I'm doing damage to them right now. I have the damage numbers turned off. We could turn that on. I'll turn it on here in a second. There's our giant zombie. Look at him. He's freaking huge. Before I go any farther, let's just turn those back on so you guys can see here. You can see that I'm damaging them. You can see what they're hitting for. And then once you have as many as you want, like I have over 100, once they actually start dying, that's when you start proccing a lot more zombies. So you can see, you can still have 6 of the big ones, you just make one at a time. And then look at my ward. As soon as they start exploding, you're going to notice that my ward starts jumping up dramatically as they go off, which is going to start happening here in a second, because once you hit the maximum 6, they will instantly start dying instantly. So there we go, 17,000 ward. If you have them all attack at the same time, 5 of them jump on it, boom, 17, 20,000. Now, here's the... Oh, I'm forgetting to do Drain Life. Make sure you don't do that. You want to make sure you got mana. Now, if you start manually casting them, like I'm going to do right here, that's when you jump the most. It's an oh shit time. 40,000. Almost 50,000 ward right there. We got quite a bit, but that's your oh shit time. That's where, like, you know you're taking damage, and you just manually cast them so that you get some of them to explode really quick, and that will allow you to gain some ward like that relatively quick. If the ward from zombie explosions stacked with healing effectiveness, this would be even more potent, but again, I don't think they're going to make that happen. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. Like I said, you're just going to continue on. I forgot to do a Drain Life here. I like to get a Drain Life going, and we'll be casting. I put the Drain Life ahead of me so they kind of walk into it as we're going through the maps, and you'll see that in the gameplay. But that's it. You got your nice big explosions, giant zombies, flame rays going. It's a nice build. You can even turn the Golem into a fire aura Golem if you want. That's completely up to you. But that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope it was easy to follow you. I wish you luck on getting the correct gear. It's going to take some echoes, but you'll eventually farm it. There will be a loot filter with this build, of course. I'm sorry that there's no build planner yet. Still waiting on that to get updated, and then we'll put all these in there so you can go over the gear and see what you have and see the numbers and calculate that all out and see the blessings and all that. But that is going to be it. So, as always, stay safe, travelers, and enjoy some gameplay.